We have a huge update for the Texans regarding free agent wide receiver Stefon Diggs and where is he going to sign. There's a possibility the Texans could bring him back, but also some off the field troubles. Could that play into an effect? We'll talk about it on Texans Digest. Is Diggs the right fit for the Texans? You guys let me know in the comments. I feel like it's a tough situation to talk about in terms of bringing back a 31-year-old wide receiver coming off an ACL tear. But welcome to Texans Digest. If you're new here, be a part of the 5% of people who click on the video that are subscribed. This is the place to be for Texans Digest. If you guys are liking the stuff, hit that sub button. But let's jump right into the video. And first topic I kind of want to touch on is, we talked about it in the intro, but it's Diggs with Cardi B rumors. And it's not really anything related to football, but it's a question. I think it's a pretty valid question to bring up. Will this be a distraction? Because you look at TMZ, now it's according to TMZ, that they're dating and they've been in a big relationship for a while now. You had all that crazy stuff come out in the offseason about Diggs, but is this going to be something that you just think about as an off-the-field problem potentially, knowing that Diggs didn't have the best character issues in Buffalo? But it's something to just think about. Now, let's switch gears again. Will the Texans sign Diggs? This is a very tough decision. For myself personally, I don't mind if we do, and I don't mind if we don't. For everything for the right price. But the biggest thing about Diggs that we will probably lose is his leadership qualities. And I was surprised to say that last year, Diggs was a huge locker room presence and a great leader for this team. He's a good guy to bring in to help those young group of wide receivers develop. And if you draft a guy like Tez Johnson, like Emeka Egbuka in the late first round, even if the Texans trade back, whatever they decide to do, Diggs can be there and he can mentor them and coach them up. That is a big thing. Now, we can switch gears a third time and say, okay, well, will they sign him? Well, if they do, you can't overpay for him. You cannot overpay for Stefon Diggs. And I bring this up to a point because when they traded for him last season, they traded a second-round pick. But the biggest thing from this to take away is the fact that Diggs restructured his contract to stay with the Texans. So he restructured his deal. He got paid $20 million and a signing bonus, and the biggest thing there is you could probably revert most of his salary to a signing bonus. I was looking pretty much for the graphic that kind of said the everything that's going on, but will they re-sign him for the right price? Let's see what Nick Caserio had to say. So Caserio was asked on a radio station, he said, what's the likelihood you guys are in touch with Stefon Diggs? He said, I have a good relationship with Steph and his representation. We enjoyed having him in the building, and the door is always open. We can never rule anything out. So I think it's a good idea for Caserio to reconsider Diggs, but if he's asking for like a multi-year contract and $20+ million a year for somebody who did have a promising season until he got hurt, but that doesn't mean you just give him the money, right? And not to mention, there's also other teams that are interested in Stefon Diggs. Apparently, the Green Bay Packers have been in the mix, according to Kamek. So there's a writer that says that the Packers are going to go out and get Diggs. And it's honestly not a terrible idea because you look at the Green Bay Packers and they kind of need a receiving room, right? Christian Watson tore his ACL towards the end of last season. Not good. And the whole Green Bay Packers situation, you could need a veteran wide receiver who may not be the one, but he'll be the guy in there to talk to Jaden Reed, talk to Romeo Doubs, and when Watson comes back, they'll all be ready. So it's a good idea for the Packers. Now, is it going to happen? Likely not. I don't, unless they give him like a fully guaranteed contract, I don't think Diggs is going to be that crazy to say, hey, I'm going to go to the Packers. But you never know with him because of what he has kind of said in past things. But I think he's kind of accepted his leadership role, his veteran ability. And this is where the Texans can do a good job of giving him the right contract. I saw an article that said his salary was somewhere from like 10 to 13 annually a year. And as much as I want to agree with that, the receiver market is going like this. It is literally climbing a great wall, the Mount Everest. The receiver in the past 2 years, DeAndre Hopkins reset the market at $20 million. It has gone up to 35. Justin Jefferson, the highest paid receiver. T. Higgins wants 35. Jamar Chase wants 40. So there's guys that are going to want to get paid. And Diggs, although he's a veteran, although he's 31, although he's coming off ACL surgery, nobody's doubting that he won't be back. So a lot to look forward to in terms of Stefon Diggs, should he be in Houston. And honestly, if you can have a low cap hit, right? If you can tank that cap hit, because that was what Nick Caserio was able to do last year, and able to restructure his deal to where he basically had no cap hit. You revert most of his salary to a signing bonus, and then you don't have cap problems. So if Caserio is able to do that and restructure some deals, including Diggs, on a 1-year contract, give him 15 a year, 10 in signing bonus, it's not much of a cap hit, that would be perfect. Maybe even a 2-year, $20 million deal. Diggs doesn't. It all depends on the contract, but do not overpay for Stefon Diggs. I think the Packers thing is kind of it's a rumor, so it's like you never actually know with these things. But I'm curious to actually how you guys feel about Stefon Diggs, because with the way I look at it, he played great last season, but who knows how he's going to come back off of the injury. And that's where I wouldn't want to focus so much attention on Stefon Diggs, because you can go out and get T. Higgins. There's a lot of receivers that kind of want out of teams that could potentially be traded. And there's also a lot of other teams that have the salary cap to go out and get those big name wide receivers. So it's a tough spot for the Texans in terms of the two big things that they need to fix is the offensive line and wide receiver. And Stefon Diggs is a very big name that has been in the mix now for a few weeks, because this is the time where the teams are supposed to re-sign guys and franchise tag players. And Stefon Diggs is a player that the Texans need to reconsider signing, as well as Eric Murray. You have a couple other guys. But in the end of it, you look at Stefon Diggs, his kind of presence on the team is very good. And for how the team feels about this season, it's definitely something that they need in terms of going on a run. Stefon Diggs has been kind of that focal point. And if the Texans don't re-sign Diggs, it's not the end of the world. I would love to go trade for a Garrett Wilson or a bigger name. The likelihood of that happening is very unlikely, but there's still a lot of stuff to kind of throw into the mix, if you would. So that's going to do it for today's video. I'm really just trying to get your guys' thoughts on Stefon Diggs. It's really a tough situation for me, because as much as I would like to re-sign him, only if it's for nothing. If you can sign him in a signing bonus relativity to where it's not more than a $5 million cap hit, because you're going to want a Trey Smith, you're going to want a Kevin Zeitler, you're going to want a Will Fry, or somebody on the offensive line, because of how the offensive line kind of collapsed last year in terms of the passing game. So that's kind of the Texans' number one goal, is to rebuild that offensive line. Nick Caley, new offensive coordinator, new scheme. It's going to look good. And for this team in general, they are going to have to pepperly throw the ball down the field. You got to try something different. And for the Rams' offensive style last year, they ran it a lot. And I don't mind that. But you have to be able to open up the floodgates. And when you don't have a number 2 wide receiver, I will take Diggs over nothing. And even if he's hurt, you can draft a receiver like Tez Johnson who can develop under Diggs. So there's just so many crucial things that you kind of need to be involved for. And that's where you sign Diggs, you convert most of his salary to signing bonus, and then you go from there. There's no real reason to give Diggs a 1-year, $20 million contract, and it's all on the salary, and he gets a $15 million cap hit because he's getting a big bonus. And that's kind of my biggest fear, is Caserio is going to give Diggs the contract he wants. But again, we'll go back to the quote one last time. He said it himself. He has a good relationship. We're going to leave the door open. If he wants to talk about a conversation in terms of a contract, maybe we can go to agree for something. So Caserio is not going to give him the world, right? And I don't know if Diggs is going to get anything seeking anything else. He definitely has the right to explore his options in free agency, but I also believe he wants to play with a competitor. And if he wants to play with CJ Stroud and the Texans and know how good of an offense this can be, especially with Diggs on the team, and we've seen him in the offseason kind of working on that knee. So there's a lot of good signs here. There's a potential that they will sign Diggs, and I do believe it's a possibility. More likely than not, they will re-sign Diggs. It's just a matter of what do you pay for him. So, again, let me know your guys' thoughts. Should you sign Diggs? Should you not sign Diggs? What would you do? But appreciate everyone watching. Thank you guys for all the support. It's been a lot of people viewing the channel, following the channel, hit that sub button if you're new. We're going to keep posting Texans news every day. Let me know if there's something specific that you want to see the Texans do, and we'll make a video on it. But until next time,